This video is going to be about how to build your own information system, a survival information system. This could be useful for storing information in an emergency situation, anything from your own computer crashing to a grid down or a bug out, and this is focusing on the digital form. But we are also going to talk about the paper system because it's also important to this. You should definitely have a paper system, even if you're going to keep a digital system. That's the reason why I'm going to talk about a paper system a little bit. Things that you should look on putting on that paper system are all of your really critical documents, because you don't know if your digital system is going to work. Put your critical documents that you know you should definitely have. Any type of documents you intend to show people, such as licenses, permits, pictures of family. If you're separated, then you can show them a picture of family. Have you seen this person? You don't have to bring out a whole digital system and set it up. Frequently used documents, and that would count your bug out grab list as well. That's a critical document. That's one that you don't want to go through all the trouble to set up your digital system to get access to that. You want to be able to go ahead and get your access to those frequently used documents, checklists, and whatever you just don't want to have to fire up that system for. And any other item that you cannot store in digital form. You know, if you've got your kid's favorite teddy bear, don't try and just take a picture of that. You know, I mean, there's a difference with having it in hand. There are some things that just can't be stored in digital form. So that would be a part of that paper archive system, as well as tools, not necessarily paper. This is dealing with just your physical system, but I just call it the paper system. This should all be put together and put into some type of watertight container to make sure it doesn't get destroyed, especially if it's on paper. And now let's take a look more considerations of the digital format as well. How long will it take you to access the items in different forms too? There may be certain things that are faster to access if they're built differently, or if it's stored in a different format. Which programs can read your data formats? So certain programs are used to write special files, like you might have an Office document that is designed for one type of office to be able to access it. So that's something to consider. You know, there are certain other formats that you could put that document in, such as rich text format, that is universally readable. It's readable on, there aren't too many systems that can't read that. Image formats, movie formats, make sure it's not something that's so proprietary that you can't access it. You want to be accessed by as many types of systems as you think you might. As many types of systems as you think you might run across. You want to be able to have it accessible by those, and if you are packing your own programs to be able to use them as well, then you want to make sure they're also compatible with that, but also compatible with as much as you might run across, just in case your systems fail. And which systems are needed to run the programs you will need. And there are certain things like certain video formats that just won't run on certain computers. So that's something to consider when you're looking at which computers you're running and which formats you're going to put that in. It should be a very simple format that everything can access. How much space does your data require? Different types of data are going to require different amount of spaces. We're going to take a quick look at that. So if you're storing a lot of videos, that's going to be a very large size. Things like movies and videos, the longer the length, the more detailed that it is, the larger it will be. Audio, like audio recordings and ebooks, voicemails, all that stuff, it's usually about a medium size. Depends on the detail, depends on the length. the quality, and it also depends on format too. You can also compress a lot of things down, put them in zip files and whatnot like that. It makes them much smaller, but then it will also take you longer to access it. That was one of our other considerations, was the time taken to access this stuff. Images and documents, like still images, like photos, images, pictures, drawings, scans, portable document files, web pages, office documents, rich text format documents, and structured databases. Those are small, but they're not as small as they can get. Plain text is as small as they can get. So if you're looking at storing recipes or instructions and contact lists and things of that nature, plain text is the way to go when you can. I would want as much in plain text form as I can get it. And then, for images, I would stick with things like JPEG and PNG. Those are very universally readable. GIF is also pretty universally readable as well. But JPEG and PNG are two of the best. And they're also compressible. So JPEG particularly is very easy to compress, and so therefore will be smaller. The PNG is available for, it's pretty widely accessible. And audio formats, I would use something, MP3 is pretty easily accessible by most systems, and it's also compressible. So that's one that I would consider for, bug out documents. Video files, there's a number of different types of formats on that, but I would definitely try to avoid, I'd try and find something that's very common, and I would try to avoid as much as possible video and audio. I'd really try and stick as much down towards, I'd try and take all my audio. Sure, music, you just can't put that on an image or a document or plain text. So your music, that's got to be an audio file. But video, I would definitely try to turn that into something smaller. And I try and keep everything as small as possible. There's also additional considerations in creating your information system. And this is where you're going to store your information you're taking with you to bug out. Organize your files so you can that way you can quickly find what you need. That would mean also if you're going to set up a computer, you're going to already have that set up. You don't want to have extra time required with your battery running trying to figure out where things are. You already want to have it indexed, create search indexes, configurations already in place. You're already familiarized with what's where, so that you can access it quickly, access exactly what you need quickly. You can find it quickly. Consider packing your programs that you use to access those files. If you're going to be bringing along an Office document, then packing some type of a program that can read that document, whether it be a Linux package or whether it be a Windows installer file, whatever that be, but it would be useful to also have those programs be in your files somewhere. Even consider packing an operating system if you can afford the space. If you've already got the operating system in there and it's a working copy, then you can already have your programs installed. You can already have that configured. And that's kind of one of the things I was also going to talk about here, was how to create a removable drive that can have the operating system and the files on there as easily accessible as possible. And this is what I'm going to talk about on here too. So this is really geared towards USB, but it could be, you could probably use a smart digital card or a number of other types of removable media. You do want something that can be written to it as well, ideally. You could use a CD-ROM drive, but it's not going to be as good as a USB drive. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a 32 gigabyte USB drive. So I'm going to create a master boot record partition table on there. When you format a drive, you can put different partition tables, and that's something that I'm going to look into doing with this USB drive. Master boot record it's been around for a long time. A lot of even very old computers will recognize it, and it can support that master boot record right on the head of the drive, so it can give it instructions to start booting to the operating system that is on one of your partitions. Master boot record is limited to 4 partitions, and that's where I'm going to have these 4 partitions here. The operating system or root. Now in my case, I like to use Linux. If you're using Windows, you don't need to worry about the swap partition. But out of that 32 gigs, I would say I'm going to put 10 gigs on that operating system. That's going to be all my programs, and that's going to be a lot of stuff. That gives me a lot of room to expand, to put tons of stuff on this thing if I want to. Swap for Linux if I am using Linux. If I'm deciding to use Windows with this, I don't know if Windows can do this on the removable drive like this, but if you are going to use Windows or something else on there, you might not need that swap space or any equivalent to it. But that would be 2 gigabytes. That's what I'd be doing. So we're left with 20 gigabytes here. And there's a reason why I put down on here the 2 gigabyte cross-platform, because I listed this as a FAT32. We will take a look on over here. Okay, FAT32 is recommended over here. And the next one is going to be like NTFS or EXT2, 3, or 4. Now, this is 2 gigabytes, and that's because it's the maximum size that a FAT32 can take. And that's your cross-platform drive. That's where I'm going to put my most critical files, the most important ones. They're going to go on into here, and they're going to be mounted, maybe some other mount location, probably home / your username / something else. But in here, it's going to be a 2 gigabyte partition. Then I'm going to have the remaining space, and in my example, it's 8 gigs. Actually, I'm trying to think here. I might be wrong on that math, because I said 10, 2, 20. No, I have 18 gigs. And that's where I put my whole home partition on that. So this is going to be set up to where it's going to automatically mount all of these if it runs live. And you have a huge partition here that you can work with this. So if you plugged in this drive to a computer and booted the computer up to this, you would have all of this stuff here. All your programs, your operating system, some swap space already allocated to yourself, and both your drives here, all your really critical files, and your partition here that has files just for use with the removable drive. This partition would be usable only if this was inserted into another computer that was running. Then you could access this from that, or while you're running. So this is accessible by both, either booting to this USB drive or running it in a plugged into another computer. So this makes a versatile USB drive. That's the point behind this. And your information on that 2 gigabyte cross-platform space is highly accessible. If you use the formats like I suggested, they're going to be accessible by almost any computer. If you boot to it, you're going to have the programs right there on it. So this is very useful. This is a very useful system to have. And you can get bigger USB drives too if you want even more space. But it's a good spot to be able to put things like, your seed references and contacts and whatever else you might want to have a copy of. Maybe that favorite song. Something there. But I don't know too much about music in that case, because you don't want to spend too much time on your battery. That's the reason why you want everything easy to find. Thank you for watching.